exist, it's not real. It's virtual. It's a made up world. You're taking your money and putting it into nothing, literally nothing. And what you got to ask yourself, or what I ask myself, is, do you think, what's America? How old is America? 240 something years old, whatever. Over 200 years old, whatever. Do you think that those 500 bodies that's on Capitol Hill, 400 and something in the House, 400 in the House, 100 in the Senate, whatever that number is, do you think that body up there, that governing body of those aged, use the word age, seasoned, old GOP or whatever you want to call them, Quakers, whatever, you think those men that are, let's say, it's in their DNA, right? Because human nature teaches you this. We're creatures of habit. The hardest thing for you to change is yourself. Guaranteed. You can change car tires, you can change anything but yourself. The hardest thing in the world to change is yourself. You think those men who have it wired in their DNA for their Federal Reserve, their banking, all their banking institutions that has been running consistently for over 200 years, running by, I mean, think about that. There's no way those men are going to allow this cryptocurrency or this digital currency to completely remove the way that the system has been run. It's not happening. Just in my opinion, this is my opinion, but what do I know, right? But in my educated opinion, my guess, like, I don't, why? Oil. You've got OPEC, oil petroleum exportation countries, which the major component of that is Saudi, the Saudis. You have all these commodities that are all tied to that mighty dollar. If you look at just the international global community, the global economy, every dollar is tied to a dollar. It's called the Forex, the exchange. Every dollar is pegged to another dollar, and there's a fluctuating rate. That's why you can take money from here and go to another country, and it's worth more, it's worth less, right? It all depends. So you have the global economy that are all interwoven, intertwined on a set currency, a physical currency that's already in place, and it's been in place for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's just too much at stake, y'all, for this thing to really have teeth. For it to really, it barks. Yes, it's barking loud. It's barking louder than the mother right now. Because I looked at it the other day, I said, damn, is that $15,000, $19,000, $16,000? Wow. It is barking. But the question is, does it have the teeth? You understand? Does it have teeth? Because somebody said they want to give me Bitcoin for my daughter's 529 college plan. I was like, don't give me Bitcoin for a college plan. Like, I don't know what that just, if I can't understand it fully, why do I want to risk or take, no. I need to have at least a solid grasp of what I'm, and what is, like, what is this? What does you understand? Like, I know what money is. I know money. What's the definition? I know how my bank works. Like, your money never sits in your bank account. It's always being loaned, and banks charge an interest rate, and they can give you a rate. And I understand how that all works. I have no real practical, that's the word, or pragmatic apprehension of how this, or what this, so like I said, you're creating a network, and the goal is to create a global network of anyone that has $4 grand, because that's roughly what a good mining kit costs. to set up a mining kit, some guy in their basement, have this mining kit and determine what the central banks do right now. Every bank has a ledger. On that ledger, have your balance, have your transactions, have the date, this, that, and that's all stored in a database. And now that is supposed to go to me personally, to you personally, to him, to her, to she, to it, what, this, that, like every and anyone? I don't know, like that just seems a little bit too, you know what I mean? It just doesn't rest well. Like something about that just doesn't quite set right in my stomach. So that's what this is. Make no mistakes about it. That's what this is. So it's a huge network, it's a virtual world, a huge network of every and anyone validating, confirming your transactions, peer-to-peer transactions. And that's the nature of this thing. This is how it works. I don't think, like I said, there's just way too much money in the financial institution now. Too much money, too much backing, too much at stake, whether it's international trades, whether it's trade deficits, whether it's surplus, whatever. There's just too much at stake that rests on that dollar or the gold that they have in the Federal Reserve. There's just too much on that at stake that I just don't believe that they would phase out the dollar or phase out what we have now for this new digital currency, this whole new, and here's why I told you to keep the income gap, which I believe is a result of the educational gap, in mind. I confused my damn self talking about this thing. I'm not gonna lie to you. Think of a world where what we just sat here and talked about, and whatever little bit you understood or didn't understand, or whatever little bit you overstand or don't understand, or whatever, think about that. If this thing, this new wave, or this new way of this revolutionary way, because it's revolutionary, it is revolutionary. It's, like I said, it's an assault on banks. It's an attack in the system as it stands. And revamping it and overhauling it, and as they would say, putting the power in the hands of the people. It might sound good, but think about this. The complexity, the sophistication of this thing. If the income gap is already as it is, could you imagine how much wider it would become? I mean, we would widen the inequality gap by leaps and bounds, quantum leaps and bounds. I mean, think about that. This thing is so complex. The cryptograph is meant to be understood by only the few. I can't even say the elites, because I was watching CNBC and they asked, I'm not going to say who the person's name because whatever, it's irrelevant, but it was a multi-billionaire. What do you think of Bitcoin? He goes, I don't know anything about Bitcoin. I don't want to know anything about Bitcoin. Let's talk about something else. The commentator, you know, they respect this guy. This guy's a powerful guy. Commentator said not one more word. He went right into the next subject. So what do you think with North Korea? They started talking about politics. Immediately, the person who said this made me think, I'm like, wow, this guy's a multi-billionaire. And he is like terrified to even discuss it. That's telling. If you're a thinker, and you're not just with the sheep herd mentality that follows the crowd, if you're a contrarian, I like that word, contrarian, you're going to stop and say, wow, you know, that's a red flag, right? So that right there is something that I don't want to lose my thought. The point I was making is that this cryptocurrency, this Bitcoin, this digital currency, this new revolution, this digital way of monetizing everything, monetizing the digital world, encryptions, cryptograph, secret, pseudonymous. Another thing, very important. Buyers and sellers are all pseudonymous. Pseudonymous means fictitious names. This whole thing, everything we just discussed is all done on the two words. It operates on the two words, anonymous and pseudonymous. So you can either operate anonymously, which is maintaining anonymity. So you can operate maintaining anonymity. No one knows who you are. Or you can operate pseudonymous. Pseudonymous means you have a false or fictitious or a counterfeit name. All legitimate. This is all part of the scheme. The question I want y'all to ask yourselves is this. Before you invest, why is everything so being done in such a secretive light? Why is everything being or trying to be converted from, I go into a bank, I know I'm giving you $1, I'm writing a check, I get this exchange for that, the service, I go home, I got my bank statement, I know, to mining, hash coin, digital currency, cryptographical puzzles, algorithms. Who in the world know what? I know what an algorithm is, right? But how many of your common fellow men, women know what algorithms are for you to be able to buy and sell or to do your whatever your financial affairs are? You have to know certain algorithms, right? Now you just got to know your password for your ATM or your debit or your credit or whatever. But now you got to know algorithms. You got to know electrographical solutions. People, the reason why they've made this thing extremely sophisticated. I mean, this thing is wizardry. That's why I said, remember the word wizard. It's created by wizards. You watch Harry Potter's and y'all seen all these movies and you laugh and y'all are entertained, not realizing that there are wizards in the world. And then there are us regular humans. You just got to accept it. There are people with astronomical IQs. Intellectual quotients are through the roof. And if they are allowed to completely, because they already run the world, let's face it, they already run the world. But if they can now consolidate the monetary system into just literally those who can think with that wizardry intellect, woe be the rest of us. Think about that. If the income gap now is widened, because that's why I said keep all this in mind, because I told you I was going to come full circle. The income inequality is a result of the educational inequality or the educational gaps. Could you imagine? There are senators right now who has no idea how Bitcoin works. What we just discussed, there are senators right now who have no idea. None. Well, how do I know? Because I follow up on news all the time, and I've heard questions presented to senators who tell the commentators or the reporters that they have no idea how it works. And these men, they're confident guys. They'll say it because they got power out the gazoo. So they don't, they have no qualms about saying, I have no idea how it works. Why? Because they're going to go into an office and write a bill the next day that'll crush all of that shit anyway. So they don't care about the wizards. They themselves are wizards in their own way. But we'll be onto the common, regular, everyday Joe. And look, there is no shame in being ignorant of how this thing works. Because the word ignorant is not a dirty word. People think it's like a dirty bomb. It's not a dirty word. Ignorant just means the lack of information, lack of knowledge, lack of knowing something. It's only disrespectful if it's used in a certain context as to insult you. But to say I am ignorant of these facts, it's not insulting. It's not bad. So it's not a shame or a knock on us, on any of us who are ignorant to what and how the mechanisms and the complexities and the intricacies. It's intricate of how this works. So imagine you want to pay your bills doing this. You want to, look, this is all under, I'm going to put it under one category. Categorize this thing. 2 letters. Not even a word. 2 letters. Abbreviations. 1 letter, A. 2nd letter, I. Artificial intelligence. I said it before, and that will be the downfall of us. Because what will happen, and what is happening is already in place. Those who are of superior intellect, those who are prodigies, you know, those who are, I used the word before, wizardry, erudites, you know, you know, this word is called, what's that word? It slips my mind. Esoteric. Esoteric means secret knowledge. I'm not going to be nice about it. I'm not going to destroy us. It will destroy the rest of us, you know. And there's no shame in us because then it would be the Darwin theory, right? Survival of the fittest, and the fittest survive, right? And that wasn't really Darwin. I forgot the guy's name, but I read it somewhere. He actually attacked. It wasn't Darwin. Everybody thinks it was Darwin, but it wasn't Darwin. It was someone else that actually coined that, but it was given to Darwin. But whatever. I digress. Let me get back on focus. So I believe that this would like rip the income gap and the income inequality. I believe it would shred it. Like and now it's wide. It wouldn't be wide. It was just completely decimated. It would just be like you're on the other side of the Atlantic. You know what I'm saying? We're not even on the same continent anymore. It's like y'all on the other side. Poor people, like the movie Elysium. Y'all will be up here on some planet somewhere and we'll be down. So it'll just create that. I mean, thinking poverty begets violence. So could you imagine? So I think that that's a huge danger in creating this intellectual elitists. That's it. In creating this class of intellectual elites. And then what would be said is you guys aren't smart enough, so you should not survive. You know, let the weak die, or, you know, let the weak, you know, let them die out. And but it would be, that would be a specious argument, because it would be based off facts. It wouldn't be truthful. That's not truthful at all. It wouldn't be that you're intellectually inferior, because what would be being done is that you need to be roboticized. I don't know if that's a word, but I'm going to use it because it just sounds fucking awesome. Roboticized. You need to become a robot in order to survive. If you can't roboticize, you're humanized. You're humanized. Right? So now being humanized would be like a bad, dirty word. You're humanized and you need to be roboticized. And if you can't be roboticized, then get your humanized ass out of here. That's right. So that's pretty much, you know, just, there's so many other, downsides and disadvantages to this whole cryptocurrency and that I can see happening. Or potentials, because life is about possibilities and probabilities and plausibilities and things like that. So like in terms of like probabilities, I can see so many probable and possible and plausible and, you know, negative effects of this thing. Like I said, countries wholesale abandon it, you know, in terms of their financial institutions, their safeguards, the vanguards of their monetary system they're not compromising the vanguards of their monetary system. So again, China will restrict it from the vanguards of their financial institutions, but they'll let individuals do it. Russia will prohibit it against the vanguards of their financial institutions. They're behemoths, they're financial juggernauts, but they'll let individuals, because they don't care if an individual gets killed in this financial disaster, digital currency disaster. But they're not going to let the ruble, the Chinese are not going to let the yen. So we here in the U.S., we're not going to let the dollar. You got to think. So before you take your money and say, you want to invest in this and buy into it and take your last 10 grand or whatever. And, I'm like, really? Do you know what you're investing in? Like, there's other things out there that's just a little bit more safe. That's all I'm going to say. There's things out there that are, look, you can get lucky, right? You can roll the dice and hit. You can get the hand of cards in the game of poker, and you get that hand. You get that royal flush. You get that hand. You get that hand that's just like, like no other. But again, if you're wealthy and you're rich and you can afford to take those gambles, and by all means, be my guest. But if you're like me and you're working and you're regular Joe, everyday Joe, like you kind of like have to just be a little bit more strategic. Because I'm not saying not to invest. I'm just saying be a little bit more, just a little more cautious, I guess, and moderate. Just kind of be a little more conservative, because that's like this whole Bitcoin fad. This thing could be up. I mean, I've seen the thing drop 2,000-3,000 points in one day. So if you bought whatever, if you put money in, you can literally lose 3 grand in an hour, in 2 hours. You can make it in an hour. But that's the risk. You see how that's a wild risk. That is a wild. If you can make 3 grand in an hour, 4 or 5 grand in an hour, and then lose it in another hour, that is extremely aggressive. That's beyond speculative. That's like extreme. That's like radical aggression. That's like the ISIS of investments. That's like radical. So I would just say, definitely do your due diligence. Hopefully this video helps somewhat. Like I said, it's a very complicated, very touchy. I probably didn't even hit I probably just skimped the tip of the iceberg here. I probably just skimped shallow. This is probably just like a shallow explanation, a shallow tutorial or informative info or whatever, because it's like mind-boggling for me. I sit down and I wrestle with just trying to understand it myself. Like I've spent the whole weekend just like researching, pulling up, and I'm like, wow, this is not good. This will benefit a very, very, very small, very, very, how you have the top 1%. This would be like the 1/10 of a fraction of the 1/10 of the 1%. You know what I'm saying? It'd be a fraction of 1/10 of the 1%. If that, I don't even know if that's logical, but whatever. I'm just trying to convey a message to you. Don't get caught up on the minutiae, that it's really not going to benefit the. And look, I understand we're all not going to grow at the same rate. Some people are better at sports. Some people are better at music. We're never going to be on the same level. Everyone have their own different talents. So some will always do better than others, blah, blah, blah. I understand biology. I understand, genetics. I understand, like I have a very deep overstanding of life. Jack of all trades. I know a little bit of I don't know any one thing too great. I know a little bit of everything just, to make me balanced and well-rounded. So I'm not advocating some socialist. I'm a capitalist at heart. I love capitalism, baby. You know what I'm saying? I've been on Wall Street for, like I said, 12, 13, 14 years. So I get busy with mine. Understand? But I also I'm a human. You know what I'm saying? First. And I understand that guy down the block, he might not be as advantageous as the guy across the street in terms of certain assets and access and but he still deserves a chance. You know what I'm saying? Like, let him be able to cash his UPS check or his McDonald's check, or, and I'm not degrading. I'm not trying to be degrading. I'm trying to say whatever level you are in life, let everyone have that respect. Let everyone have that shot. Don't already create a disadvantage. The systems already create as a huge disadvantage. We already know that. I don't need to talk to anybody. There's huge discrepancies and privileges and da-da-da-da. But doing this with this cryptocurrency, digital currency, and digital monetizing, like I said, it's not going to widen the gap. It's going to put you on another continent. You're across the Atlantic. So I hope that this video enlightened you somewhat. And if there's anything you can take away to help make your financial journey more profitable, effective, and effectual, and efficient, then I guess my job was done. Till next time. Peace.